Minecraft is already a game with a lot to do in it. There's always a next project to work on or save resources for. What if you took that premise and made Minecraft more complicated? What if you made everything harder, more tedious? What if you made the game torture? Well, GregTech New Horizons is a mod pack that does just that. GTNH is touted as the last Minecraft mod pack you'll ever need. With crafts that can take months and whole new insanely complicated game mechanics to learn, it's one of the toughest and most complex mod packs in Minecraft. I figured with such a complicated mod pack, I could have a simple goal. I made it my mission to get enough cobblestone to make this block on the item list. This is an octuple stacked cobblestone, which condenses about 43 million cobblestone into one block. I had no idea how much torture I was about to go through for such a simple video idea. I started my world and ran into so many issues on my first day. The new mechanics were instantly overwhelming.
Nutrition, what? That's not good. What is all this? What is going on? What?
Luckily, I had found a village on my first day. This place would be the only reason I survived the early game.
Oh, crafting table. At least that's still normal. What? Bread, please. Oh my god, how do you make bread? Cooking dough? How do you make dough? Why? How do you make what is going on?
This new home gave me shelter while I realized how out of my depth I really was on this pack.
Oh my god, it's really dark. Holy shit. Dude.
I needed to start making some sort of progress, so I turned to the quest the mod offers for a starting path. By following the quests, I learned how to make a crafting table, flint tools, and chests. Almost every early game craft was overcomplicated by a large margin, making this take forever. Coupled with the fact that I had no bed, I was waiting each night out in the village, making these seemingly simple quests take insanely long. Luckily, these quests were rewarding me with a lot of food. This mod forces you to eat a variety of food, and makes food less filling as you eat more of it in a row. Getting a variety of food would be a constant grind through the playthrough. Anyways, I was finally able to get a small start on the video's goal and collected my first cobblestone. We'd obviously need a lot more than this, but getting the first few blocks felt huge. I tried finding sheep to get wool for the next quest, which led to me finding out why food was so important to keep on top of.
Oh, that's not good. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Luckily, I survived that encounter, and after 2 hours in the world, I finally had made a bed.
Oh my god.
This would ramp up my progress since I no longer had to wait around for night to end to go outside. I continued through the quest line and made it to the Stone Age. This would open up a lot more options for tools and progression. I figured now was as good of time as any to start building a house. I slaved away and went brick by brick, building my magnum opus. Okay, maybe it wasn't the nicest house, but it would do for now. Of course, the crafting recipe for doors was complicated, so the village came in clutch again.
Don't mind me.
I kept grinding on the quests and added a farming area to my land, since I'd need a ton of the raw materials and food that I'd get from it. The quest had me build Tinker's Construct tool tables, which come from a mod that completely revamps tool crafting. This finally allowed me to get some upgraded tools. I hollowed out a small area in my basement to store the materials and machines from that mod. Since the mod was gatekeeping charcoal, every time I wanted to smelt something up to this point, I had to use wood. Finally, at this point, I was able to make a coke furnace, which allowed me to turn wood into charcoal. This also gave me a way to make torches, which would allow me to do much more mining. Before I got the chance to do that, I ran into a familiar enemy. This zombie was an infernal mob. Infernal mobs are monsters that have special effects added to them. The effects pull from a random pool, and some can kill you insanely quickly. They end up being a constant problem for me in mod packs that include them, this one included. Anyways, that zombie beat my ass.
Oh!
After dealing with that, I completed a quest that gave me an iron pickaxe head. I finally had what I needed to confidently go searching for more iron to progress. I didn't get to celebrate for long before I ran into a roadblock.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's an infernal mob. Not good.
I'm doing the scrap.
I'm gonna die. I'm dead.
Yeah, that zombie was an ultra infernal mob. Tough. I got my stuff back and started that search for iron, which was much more complicated than I anticipated. The mining system in this mod pack is completely different from normal Minecraft. Chunks are grouped into 3x3 boxes, with the center being an ore chunk. Ore chunks are classified by what type of vein they spawn, and only spawn a group of ores possible in that classification. One chunk could be an iron heavy one with veins of yellow or brown limonite, both of which would smelt into iron, or it could be a mix of other veins that go together. Once you know what type of vein that ore chunk has, you know exactly what's possible to find inside of it. Every time I wanted to check a chunk for what ore group they spawned, I would have to bore a hole down the center of the ore chunk and hope I found a useful vein. It took me a lot of playing around with that system to figure it out, but after checking what felt like a million ore chunks, I finally found an iron vein.
Yo!
With around 10 hours in the world, I finally had a reliable source of iron. With that, I was able to make a ton of new tools that opened crafting recipes that were blocked before. My next goal was to find tin and copper to make bronze. Hunting for the right ores took hours.
Still not finding the shit that I need.
Sounds like a skill issue moment.
Oh my fucking god, I found it.
But I finally got the copper and tin, learned how to craft bronze powder, and smelted the powder to make bronze ingots. Getting bronze meant that I could make a coal boiler, shooting me straight into the steam age. I made the boiler and tried connecting it to the first machine, an alloy smelter, to make more bronze. Unfortunately, it broke when I tried to do that.
What is that? Insufficient steam.
Turns out, I needed to set it up a certain way to create a buffer for the steam. So I spent an hour mining and smelting more iron to make an iron tank to store the steam. After doing all of that, I realized I didn't have a way to make glass for the tank gauge. So then I researched making a poor man's buffer with large pipes that the quest book talks about, but unfortunately nowhere on the fucking internet explained what that meant, so I have no idea how to make one with pipes. Eventually, I just gave up and decided to make a smelter from the Tinker's Construct mod. It was a massive pain in the ass, but I could finally make glass to finish the iron tank. This tank allowed me to store a large amount of steam at once and let me run my machines for longer without interruptions. Yeah, it turns out that's what a buffer is. To get water to my boilers, I originally planned on pumping water from the river north of my base all the way down to me. Thank God I never committed to that since I found out about the water tank. I farmed some close by rubber trees to get sticky resin to build the water tank to supply my steam engines. My base was in an area with high humidity, so the tank would automatically generate water that I could pump into the boilers. My steam setup was finally usable, so I started experimenting with what I could do with it. I built a variety of steam-powered machines that would allow me to process a bunch of new materials. This allowed me to start working on making a blast furnace so I could start producing steel. The blocks for the blast furnace were made by making bricks out of clay and brick dust, which was simple but tedious. Combining the bricks into blocks required concrete, which combined 4 different powders that I had to collect and process in my machines, along with gypsum dust, which was rare as fuck. Another one of the dusts I needed, calcite dust, came from lapis veins. Since I hadn't found one of those yet, I started mining everywhere, praying to find the right vein. After searching for way too long, I eventually conceded and gave in to making an ore finder. This device allowed me to scan for specific ores while walking on the land around me. Thank God I made that, since the first lapis vein I found was miles away from my base.
Oh my god, I did it. Oh, finally.
With everything I needed, I had my steam machines running full tilt, processing all of the various powders and bricks that I needed. After such a painful grind, I finally made the blocks for the blast furnace. I built it in my basement, and I finally had time to breathe. A lot of time, as it turned out.
I think we just do that. And there we go. In like 40 minutes, we'll have steel.
Steel production was exhaustingly slow, but it would open up a ton of opportunities for upgrades, like upgrading my tools by casting the steel with my TC smelter. With the steel, I was able to craft some new toys, the first being a backpack. This thing would almost double my inventory space, which is huge in a mod pack with such a wide range of items. The second item was a glider. This allowed me to get further from my base much faster if I had a bit of height, so I built a tower to jump from whenever I needed to leave. The glider allowed me to look for aluminum gravel easier, which was the easiest way to get aluminum early game. It was pretty rare in my starting area, and I needed as much as I could possibly get. I spent some time searching for the aluminum while exploring the land around me. I'd been playing an unhealthy amount of Minecraft in the time that it took to get to this point, and I realized that we were already on day 150 of the world.
It's been like 36 hours in this world so far. We got this house, which is in dire needs of upgrading. We got this stuff. There's a failed aluminum farm in there, but what are you gonna do? I don't think I've shown this in the video yet, but we got a cactus farm here. I thought it would be way further by now, but we'll see how long this ends up taking. This video might end up taking fucking 1,000 days if it stays moving like this. So far we have 3,600 cobble. That is very far off from the 43 million that I planned on getting, so we're gonna really have to pick up the pace on the cobblestone generation here.
Yo, wait, what is that? Whoa. Now that I had access to steel, tools that could mine obsidian, and a bit of aluminum, I was able to cast a lumite. A lumite casting unlocked the tool forge for me. This station would end up being a massive upgrade for my equipment. It allowed me to make a hammer that mined in a 3x3 area, exponentially speeding up mining trips. I made an axe that could cut down whole trees by chopping one block. I got a shovel too, but whatever, it's just a shovel. Now that I was getting materials much faster, I progressively did some work on my Steam setup. I upgraded my machines with steel to increase their speed and added hoppers and chests to make them pseudo-automated. At this point, it was time to start the grind of getting to the next age of the world. To make it to LV, I would need to start producing rubber. Luckily, I could already get one of the materials needed to make it, being rubber pulp from extracting rubber tree logs. The other material wouldn't be as easy. I needed sulfur, which was locked behind the nether. Reading through the quest book, it insisted that I was gonna die there, which was great.
Oh, this is fucked. There's no way I'm doing that right now. Oh, there we go. The fuck are you? I want 0 smoke. I am all good. Awesome. Ow! What did I say? Thank God. There we go. Oh, that was so stupid. Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. There we go. Ow. Bad. Oh my God. Whoa. Wow. Ooh. Ooh. Oh my God.
Yeah, the quest didn't lie, the nether got hands, but I made it out alive somehow, and had the sulfur I was looking for. This allowed me to make the rubber and get started on machine building for the low voltage age. Unfortunately, this meant things were about to get a lot more complicated. Before I started getting crazy with the electronic hoopla, I decided it was time for a base upgrade. I tore down that shit shack I built in the beginning and started making a larger base. This took a lot of the cobblestone I was collecting for the video's goal, but you gotta do what you gotta do. This base wasn't great, but it was about as good as I get with building, so I was happy. It would evolve later, but for now we had an empty canvas to work with. I also made piston boots with the rubber, another upgrade to my mobility that would help me move around the new massive house. I then gathered the supplies to start moving into LV, a massive milestone for this world. Moving into LV would bring back issues from the start of the Steam age, but with much more complexity. I was instantly overwhelmed by all the options I had. I made my first steam turbine to generate power and started crafting the first machines the questline suggests. The quests in this section are named You're Gonna Hate This, and with good reason. Crafting at this point was a bitch. Everything I complained about before was cake compared to these recipes. For example, just to make this ore washer, I had to get this stuff. Doesn't seem too bad until you look at the crafting tree. I took close to an hour crafting everything I needed for this, running back and forth looking for materials in my chests and learning how to craft every little component. I started using 3 crafting tables to be able to store progress for a craft that I needed to craft in another craft. It was mind-numbing and I would have to do a lot more of it. I built a wooden doohickey outside the base so rain wouldn't hit my machines. If these new machines are exposed to rain at all, they explode, and I think I'd have an aneurysm if that happened to me. Like the steam machines, I had trouble getting these new ones to run. I read up on how power worked, and I figured out that the wires I was using lost power the longer they were, so for now, I decided to just connect the machines to the turbine as I needed them. I'd upgrade the setup later, but for now, this was the easiest solution. I started working on building the multitude of machines I would need to process the materials I needed for more machines. A lot of these machines would let me produce the stuff I was already making, but at a fraction of the cost. Up to this point, I had been producing steel constantly in my blast furnace, but I was already running out since I started LV, where everything of value costs a ton of it. To aid this, I upgraded my blast furnace and also moved it away from my base to reduce how much pollution I put into my home chunk. I hadn't dealt with issues regarding pollution yet, but some guy on Reddit said it was a good idea and I trust him with my life. At this point, I had collected a fair amount of cobblestone for the video's goal, but nowhere near enough. Luckily, we were at the point now where I could do something about it. I found out about a machine that would help me, so I decided to focus on building it. This is a transfer node. Before I could craft it, I would need to collect some supplies. First, I would need ender pearl screws, so I started on building a lathe. The lathe allowed me to turn ender pearls into rods, which I could turn into the screws. Next, I'd unfortunately have to make another trip to the nether, since I needed tetrahedrite for making brass. This trip didn't go as well as the last one.
What the fuck? Fuck away from that thing. Oh? Where does tetrahedrite spawn? 80 to 112. Okay, so I have to look up. It's right there. Ow. Why? The fuck did I do? Oh, not fucking you. Ow, bitch. Stop! Oh! Fuck you. You first. Yep. Oh, wow, I'm so low. Wow. Wow. What the fuck was that? They all do so much damage. Oh, not another one of those things. Out. Nope. I don't have a plan. God damn it. Okay. Already? What are you? There's a skeleton on my shit. There's bitches attacking me. You hurt so fucking bad. No! They hurt so bad. Skeleton, what the fuck? Oh god, that's so much shit. What? What is hurting me? What is hurting me? What the fuck is hurting me? Is that it? Bitch! You have so much fucking health. You're fucking kidding me right now. Alright, let's try to get out of here without dying. Thank fucking God, dude.
Once I made it out with the tetrahedrite, I processed it into dust and combined it with zinc to make brass. That allowed me to make an item pipe I needed for the transfer node. I made a transfer pipe out of steel along with a few more materials I needed for the transfer node and crafted it. This thing would be monumental to me, but not in this form. First, I would need to make a world interaction upgrade to put inside the node. This required diamond pickaxes to craft, which of course couldn't just be simple. I needed a cutting machine to turn diamond blocks from my compressor into diamond sheets. The cutting machine required a diamond saw blade made from cobalt brass metal. Cobalt brass powder of course required a separate machine to make, so I made a mixer for combining powders into new recipes. I didn't have many options for getting cobalt at the time, so my solution was to build a centrifuge that would allow me to wash certain ore dusts for a chance of getting cobalt dust off of them. Of course, I didn't have enough brass left either, meaning I needed zinc. I got that by grinding tetrahedrite, washing the ground ore to get purified ground tetrahedrite, grinding down that purified ore into dust, then washing that dust in the centrifuge. Each purified dust gave me just a 10% chance at getting zinc out of it. I knew this process would be tedious and slow, so I created a second turbine to turn more steam into electricity and piped the steam into one of the corners of my house. Now I would have a room for more machines to run in tandem with the outside setup. Eventually, with all that effort, I was able to get enough cobalt brass for the saw blade and made the cutting machine. My setup could just barely handle the amount of energy it took to cut the diamond blocks into sheets, and I had to fully buffer my steam at max capacity and disconnect all of my other machines to cut one block. It used all of my steam at once, but it was enough to make sheets and complete the world interaction upgrade. I built an average cobblestone generator in another corner of my house and placed the transfer node on top of the cobble. Once I placed the world interaction upgrade inside, I began infinitely generating cobblestone right inside of my base. This method was generating a stack around every 15 to 20 seconds, which I could keep going constantly. Now that I was generating cobblestone and making progress on the goal of this video, it was time to address some big issues. First, and most importantly, was storage. I experimented with different options like upgrading my barrels and making new ones to fill with cobble, but those filled up almost right away and would be way too expensive to upgrade for storage that's still too small for our needs. I came to the painful realization that nothing available in the LV age was going to be able to store the amount of cobblestone that I needed. I tried making a super chest with a capacity of 4 million blocks, but I'd need materials that were gated to the next age. Since this seemed like my only option, the rest of my time would be spent trying to rush to MV to make these chests. My second biggest issue was energy generation. The steam setup was not cutting it anymore and was wildly inefficient. I had some options now that I could branch into for energy production, and the one that stood out to me was natural gas. I made a gas turbine which allowed me to turn various renewable gases into electricity. Specifically, I was turning logs into methane gas by processing them in a centrifuge, then pumping the methane to my gas turbine. This made me energy that was much more efficient and easier to store than all the setups required with steam. I wanted to push the limits of natural gas as an energy source, and for that I would need a ton of trees. I didn't want to keep running back and forth chopping down full forests, and I wanted to get into some automation, so I settled on making an automatic tree farm. Luckily, the Steve's Carts mod was perfect for this. Of course, parts of the minecart building had to be a struggle.
5 saw blades and saw blades. No. No.
But after some processing and crafting, I could afford everything I needed. I set up the cart to chop trees along the tracks and replant the saplings it received. The cart would return to one point, deposit its logs into a cargo bay, and then fill up its engine with a few of the extras as fuel to continuously power itself. I wanted to be able to forget about the farm for long periods of time, so I made part of the track lead into my house where my secondary energy production area was. Now I had a nearly infinite source of logs that could be produced into methane automatically. At this point, I was starting to need rarer materials for crafting recipes. Luckily, there was a way to find more of these materials, but it required a portal to another dimension. Different dimensions and planets in GTNH have unique ore veins available to them. A lot of materials could rarely be found in the overworld, but the ones I needed mainly spawned in the Twilight Forest. The Twilight Forest is a massive mod that's further expanded on in this mod pack. It has its own whole quest line and would have a lot of content for future exploration. I surrounded a puddle with flowers and crafted the shockingly expensive portal generator and summoned the portal.
Just back up a little bit. Jesus Christ, I really should have.
I took a few trips into the Twilight Forest and took as much of the ores as I needed. Ores like nickel and lead were very scarce in the overworld, but plentiful in the Twilight Forest if you could actually find a vein. I needed a lot of these ores for my next project, which would be setting us up for the early jump to the MV age. Back home, I built a second iron tank inside of my house and used it to store methane. I could use this as a central hub for my natural gas turbines while still close to the steam setup to allow for gas production with spare energy or when I had nothing else to process. I said I wanted to move away from steam, but that was a lie. It was too convenient at this point of the game, so I opted to optimize the setup a little bit. I was worried about the pollution I was putting out with the coal boilers along with the coal cost of running them. So I built a small collection of solar steam burners that would create clean energy without any inputs other than water. This gave me a use for the extra silver I happened to get in the Twilight Forest, and in turn I would have to worry about managing the steam setup much less. The next big milestone I would need to rush MV was building the electric blast furnace. This thing would cost a crazy amount of raw materials, consist of like 10 different machine parts, and take forever to make. I spent hours leaving my computer running to process all of the materials that I needed and built a ton of new machines for my energy setup to run to make little bits and pieces. After like 3 days of exclusively focusing on material creation for the furnace, it was finally done.
I've been at this for days, and I think we're finally done. Now, I think that's everything.
Of course, this couldn't happen without some issues.
And I think with that, we're done. Ooh, has problems. Okay, good. Awesome. Oh, wow.
I had to play with it for a while to get it to run properly. This thing needed 4 amps of electricity to run, basically meaning I needed 4 LV energy sources to power this thing at once to run it. I bit the bullet and made the machines needed for battery creation and made batteries with materials I rarely got through processing the other ores. I then set up 2 battery buffers onto the machine, allowing the machine to pull energy from multiple batteries at once. The EBF took an obscene amount of energy to run and still produced materials extremely slow, but at least we had a way to run it currently. I combined materials produced from the EBF along with the rare ores I had gathered throughout my time playing to make the final components I needed, and after about 1,000 total days in the world, I had successfully rushed MV. From here, my goal was entirely planned. Find the fastest way to generate cobblestone in this tier and build the necessary storage to contain the 44 million I wanted to collect. After rushing MV, I made an MV gas generator to use the methane I stored up from my tree farm. I also started crafting some MV level machines that could produce new recipes I needed. Going through the crafting for these new machines was hell, especially since I rushed MV instead of taking my time, but with some grinding I could make them. I made an electrolyzer to easily extract minerals from other dusts that would allow me to make aluminum in the EBF faster for more MV machine building. I also built an MV bending machine, which was the key component to making the dense iron plates for the super chest. The last part I was missing was pulsating iron ingots. I got the powder for these by mixing a bunch of dust together, none of which were hard to get. Normally you would need the next level of the electric blast furnace to smelt the dust into ingots, but instead I just pumped oxygen into the furnace, which made the furnace hot enough. With these key ingredients made, and a chest buffer made from LV machine parts, I was finally able to craft the super chest.
That thing? So much has gone into making this fucking thing. 4 million blocks of storage. That is something else. Oh, bitch. Grab this. We shouldn't need you anymore at all. There we go. That's so cool.
This chest alone would hold 4 million of a single block, perfect for our purposes. Once I hooked up the chest to our cobblestone generation machine, another problem stood out. We were back to producing cobblestone way too slowly. I started testing MV rock breakers in another world, but they were also shockingly slow. Using these would take forever, and making more generators in the configuration I had now would be extremely expensive and tedious for very little payoff. I had no idea what I was going to do. I tried testing stack upgrades on the transfer nodes to increase production, but that didn't work. After testing for a while, I made a discovery. I don't know if this is how they're supposed to work, since I couldn't find anything about this method in a single discussion online about cobble generation in GTNH, but stacking world interaction upgrades in the transfer node allowed me to multiply the efficiency of cobble generation by however many I put in. If I put 64 of these upgrades into one node, I'd be generating a stack of cobblestone every second, using only materials that were available to me back in LV. This seemed like my best option, so I set out to make an unreasonable amount of world interaction upgrades. These took about 14 diamonds each between the gears and picks that I needed to craft one, so I spent the next few days exploring my world with the ore finder, emptying every diamond vein I could find. Luckily, I figured out that I could use the tool forge to add lapis upgrades to my pickaxe, giving it fortune. From there, I traded in a bunch of these coins that I had slowly collected through the quest completions for normal diamond ore. This allowed me to multiply my diamond yield, making this go by much faster. I ended up collecting well over 1,000 diamonds for these upgrades, clearing out a ton of diamond chunks. With many hours of AFKing in my base letting the diamonds process into the forms I needed, I was able to slowly craft more and more of these upgrades until I had a fully upgraded transfer node. This quickly filled my first super chest, so I continued to craft them as I needed more storage. I thought the only thing better than one maxed out generator would be 2 of them, so I built a second generator and item transfer node that piped into the super chest. After a bit more upgrading of the node efficiency with more interaction upgrades and more super chest crafts, my 1,000 plus day journey came to an end.
I think we're done. 3 million something in there. 4 million. 4 million. 4 million. Yeah, you get the drill. That's 10 over here, 40 million, and then 43.2 million cobblestone. 2 months of work, 210 hours, around 1,200 Minecraft days. And we finally got it.
I finally got to my goal of 44 million cobblestone in Minecraft's most complicated mod pack. Unfortunately, I can't actually craft the octuple compressed cobblestone until HV, so for now I'm stuck with the cobblestone being loose. But now that I had basically infinite building materials, I could make anything I wanted. Too bad I don't really like building.